Of course, every mother makes every child think that that's their favorite, but he was very sickly as a baby and had rheumatic fever and was supposed to die by the time he was 12. And she told me all these stories about how she used to, you know, tend to him. And so Earlene, yeah, but he grew away from Earlene as when he left the area when he was 14. And by the way, no, Otis, he was not sold to a pimp because his mother owed them money.
A lot of stories.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And by the way, he didn't die that way. It shows in the movie either. So
we'll
those
talk
are
about
things
that.
are in
Yeah,
the movie.
yeah.
But not my movie, which hasn't been made yet, but Otis's movie, which
This is movie material. Genna.
old. So when he finally got away from Eli, let's put it like that, at 14, and went on the road with the gospel group and merged out of that into the Dixie Nightingales, which he was in and successful as a lead singer in before he went the secular way in music, which is another story I could get into right now. I can't. But that's when he kind of really grew away from Earlene. He went to Detroit. He went to, you know, Chicago, and really never spent a lot of time going back. And I developed a relationship with Early and myself, and you know, I believe I had more communication with her than he did.
You mentioned that in the book. The book is about you and David, so let's kind of focus on this. And it's going to be awkward and difficult because David was not the greatest, how shall I put this? He beat the living daylights out of you for a long time. It's an old Woody Allen joke. He only beat me once. My parents only beat me once. They started in June and ended in July. But you were beaten repeatedly.
4 years later.
You were beaten for a long time. And the truth has to come out.
Well, not only that, it wasn't only me. It was before me and after me.
Do you want to talk about Tammy Terrell?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can touch on that, but I mean, I didn't physically see him beat his first wife, but I heard him. They were within earshot of me. I heard about it. I heard about him beating Tammy. I heard a lot of stories. Did he really kill her? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Let me put it this way. Let me make it try to make it easy for you. It's 2009 right now. Jerry Springer, Oprah, a shelf full of books saying, like, you know, if a man so much as looks at you the wrong way, turn around and get the heck out of there. Yep. We're talking about 64, 65, when literally you're talking about getting the daylights wailed out of you in front of people sometimes, and the guys would just turn the other way. The police, and I'm not making this up, the Detroit police would come over to a mansion and see you all bloody and look the other way because David Ruffin was a famous person.
Am
I making that up?
No, they didn't even look the other way. They just pushed me behind the door and high-fived him and got an autograph.
Okay, let me set you up even further. The first time David Ruffin really did a job on you, you called up your father, who you weren't particularly fond of, and say, Dad, David has beaten me up. And the first reaction of your father in your book was, what did you do to provoke him?
Yep.
Yikes. And that was the atmosphere in those days.
Yeah, not only that, not only was I not fond of him, I was excommunicated from the family because David was black. And in fact, I was dead to me. You're dead to me. My father's Italian. So I was dead to him.
Do you mind setting up a little bit? I'm sure the audience is curious, as I was reading the book. You have a great quotation in this book where you say, I'm the only child in a family of 6. What did you mean by that, Genna?
I think those who know what it means know what it means, and those who don't, I'll try to explain it. It might not make sense. Wow. Long story short, parents were divorced when I was 4. My mother was an alcoholic. She didn't have time for me. She had 2 older boys by the first guy, and then me 6 years later, so I was like right there by myself. She was off doing her own thing. Then she had 3 kids by the second guy. I
see what you're getting at.
And then she ran off and left them, you know, some years later, totally behind. So, I mean, I was on my own.
Yeah. And then...
No siblings.
I can see the movie, Genna. So here you're kind of knocked off your feet by David Ruffin. And it's hard being a fan of someone that you know. I'm looking at the woman who one of my heroes used to beat up. That's what it's coming down to on television. But to see him dance, to see him sing, in every article or book I've written about David Ruffin, they talk about his incredible talent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you the question that I'm sure you've gotten a lot. Why did you stick around? Was it because of the... Go ahead. Come on, come on.
That's what a lot of people say. I think it was...
well, it was Motown, for crying out loud.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Stevie Wonder's in the back seat, and Barry Gordy's got a party at the mansion, and Marvin Gaye says, "Hey, Genna, how you doing?" And
yeah, that's kind of what he said. But
I know where you're going with that.
I'm not going there.
No.
Motown had and still has what we in the industry or in the inner circle like to call the wall of silence.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking right at my notes right here. The Motown wall of silence,
Yeah.
pact of silence.
Yeah.
I think is what
they
you
don't
said.
talk about it even now.
So
Me, I'm already kicked out. I don't care.
So I'm getting ahead of myself. That movie about the Temptations, and there are some articles now saying that there are some nefarious activities, like David Ruffin was murdered. One of the Temptations was murdered. Barry Gordy, not to disparage his reputation or anything like that, but ran a black mafia, that kind of stuff. Are you in any trouble, any danger?
Am I in trouble?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI has a file on me.
Okay.
But I'm not in trouble.
Yeah.
Because nobody takes me seriously. So that's kind of like under the radar stealth thing for me. And if I don't care, what can they do? Kill me, sue me? I don't care.
But the stuff you talk about in the book, Genna. It's a horrible episode. You know that David Ruffin has a new girlfriend, and you're calling her, and you've been beaten within an inch of your life. I mean, not just beaten up, but held down and wham, wham, wham. And you know where this woman probably is. She's in the bedroom. She answers the phone. You say, "Look up on the ceiling. What is that you see?" And she says, "David said that's ragu spaghetti sauce." And I'm not making this up, am I?
No, you're not.
What did she see?
It was blood. I'm talking high 9-foot or 10-foot ceilings, spattered from the last time he broke my nose and beat me within an inch of unconsciousness, which is always an all-nighter with him. It was always till he crashed.
Yeah.
Which brings into play another aspect.
Go ahead, go ahead. I mean, you can still smile about this, but I guess what I'd like to know is, I'm so used to talking to authors who write books, and the book presents as some kind of resolution. There is, in your book, Kelly, that wonderful stepdaughter of yours.
God bless her.
The book ends beautifully, ladies and gentlemen, but the stuff in this book is enough to, make a movie and make your stomach churn. So I'm not Oprah, but has there been any resolution, any getting this out?
Out of me?
Yeah.
That's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And I mean, I started like journaling, if you call it scribbling notes on cocktail napkins, journaling in 1964.
Right, in a spiritual journey.
Yeah, no, there was no spiritual journey for me at that time. I was journaling, writing down.
I see what I'm sorry.
Because I couldn't really talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And I would just write things down. And I realize now in retrospect that tends to happen with people who are stifled in their childhood. If they say anything, they get beaten. And then the next relationship and the next one, it's always the same. So that's important to write things down because that's your outlet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it took me like 12 years to get this thing organized. And even I tried a few times to write it, but I was afraid because David was still alive. Motown was still alive. By the way, I don't think that Barry Gordy had a black mafia. I think the Italian mafia had Barry Gordy. But anyway,
that's another
story.
Book, yeah.